record button, which means we are recording. All right, so again, we are going into our topic, getting started with FlipGrid tonight. FlipGrid is a really fun tool. I've seen it used in a number of ways in different classrooms and with adults in professional learning. And it's definitely an excellent tool to make connections, provide a different opportunity to show what we've learned, and just change the perspective in the way that we interact with each other. So with that said, my name again is Eric Leck. I'm the Director of Curriculum and Instruction and Educational Technology at Carbon Lehigh Intermediate Unit. You see my contact information there. I've been with the Intermediate Unit now for 9+ years. Before that, I was in a traditional school district as a Spanish teacher, as well as a technology coach and virtual school coordinator. In addition to those two responsibilities or those two positions, I've also spent quite a while teaching online Spanish for about 6 or 7 years, teaching students all across the United States and as far away as India, and been able to interact with them in a wide variety of ways in that online setting. So it's definitely been an interesting experience from that perspective, and I hope I can give you some great tips and tricks along the way. So to get us started, I just want to do a quick check on our room. And to do that, I like to start with a little poll. So I'm sending you a poll through Zoom. You have a couple of questions I'd love for you to answer. First, tell me what grade level or levels you might teach. If you do not teach in one of those boxes that I sent to you, please select other and let me know what that is. And also, I wanted to know if you've ever participated in asynchronous video discussion before. So if you can make your selections on the poll. Is my poll not working? Let's try that again. There we go. Now it looks like it's working the way it should. I apologize. Give you guys a couple more minutes to fill in. If, like I said, you are in that other category and you want to tell me what your grade levels that you teach are, you can post those in the chat. Otherwise, I'll just give it a couple more seconds for others to participate in our poll tonight. Well, it looks like from what I'm seeing come in our poll that we have a wide variety of grade levels that we teach in the room tonight. We teach everything from K through 12. It looks like we have our majority teaching in that middle level though. And it looks like a number of you have participated in asynchronous video discussion, meaning discussions where you are not online at the same time. And it's good to see that some of you have had that opportunity to participate in that way, because that's what we're going to be looking at today. So I'm going to end that poll and just show you some of those results so that you can see where we are. And we'll close it out. So you can go ahead and close that poll if you like. You don't have to keep it on your screen. And my last part here today is, obviously this is about the tool FlipGrid, but I'm wondering if there's anything else that you might be thinking about this evening, concerned about, or questions that you might have that you're hoping to gain while we go through our session this evening. So this is your opportunity to add in any of those other questions. Like I said, I know this is all about FlipGrid, but we'll see if there's anything else that I could help you with while we are together for this hour. All right, I don't see any much more coming in the chat. So let's jump to our session goals. So for today, a couple things that I want to do is, first, I want to make sure you're familiar with the FlipGrid tool. including how to set it up and use it for remote learning. So we are going to go through a complete step-by-step tonight. And I will take my time the best that I can to help you. I'll also make sure that if you've never experienced FlipGrid before, you will not be able to say that when you leave tonight. Second, I want to make sure that we take some time to share ideas on how FlipGrid might benefit learning for your students, how this could be very good for them, and how it could change the way that they are working in their classroom. And finally, I want to make sure you know how to locate resources that will help you as you begin using FlipGrid. We can certainly review it today. We can certainly make sure you feel comfortable with it. But I want to also make sure that when you are not with me, you know who you can go to or where you can go to get some extra help. I see in the chat that some of you have had children that have used FlipGrid and you've seen it used. So this is going to be your chance to put it to use. And I did see someone put in there that they want to know how I created that poll. If you get to use Zoom as a learning tool, one of the options as a host is called polling. And you can create the poll right before your course starts. You put a question in and some answers, and then you just launch the poll to the class. So it's really super easy to throw those polls out once you have been in a hosting role in Zoom. All right. So first, what is FlipGrid? So those of you who may not know or don't know before, what is FlipGrid? It is a video discussion tool. And the goal there is really to encourage students to engage, share, and learn. We know that our kids are social animals. They are on TikTok, they are on Snapchat, they are on Instagram, and all of these tools not only allow for things like images and discussion, but they have videos. And you know, whether we like it or not, our kids are often considered a selfie generation. So this is one of those tools that kind of lets them do that thing, you know, participate in that way, take the selfie, take the video. You'll see later I have an example with my son, and he loves it just because he loves to see himself on video. And it gives them an opportunity to interact, to share, and then once they get over, of course, the excitement and the newness of just using the tool, actually put it to use for their learning. FlipGrid has been and will be a free for all educators tool. This was recently purchased by Microsoft. However, Microsoft has vowed to keep this one free for educators because they know how powerful it is. And you can find FlipGrid at, of course, www.flipgrid.com. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to experience FlipGrid as students. So I'm going to actually stop sharing my screen in a moment, and I am going to send you a link to go to. That link, I have removed some restrictions from it so that you could jump in and actually record yourself. So I would love it if a few of you would actually jump in and do that. But before I do that for you, just wanted to show you a quick startup and how this goes.
Join your class FlipGrid by entering the code from your teacher in the free iOS or Android app. Or enter the code at flipgrid.com on any web browser. You'll be asked to log in with your school email address or student ID from your teacher. Now that you're in, let's tap that green plus to record a video. In FlipGrid, you can pause your video to record multiple segments, add filters, turn on whiteboard mode, and more. Once you're done, you can review and edit your video or record more. When you're ready to share, tap next and take a selfie. This is the image that will appear on the grid. Click submit to share your video to the grid, and that's it. Your video is on the grid.
So that was a quick getting started. That's a video that you could share and use with your students to show them how to get started in FlipGrid. But like I said, my goal here was to get us out of the presenter mode. And I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment. And I'm sending you a link in the chat to a FlipGrid grid. I'm sorry, let me send that and put that in for everyone. So you can click on that link in FlipGrid, and it will take you in to create your own flip. So I'm going to stop talking for a minute. I'm going to hit mute, And I'm going to let you guys go ahead and hit the green button and see if you could record something in FlipGrid. All right, well, I'm going to come back into the screen. I see that some of you have already jumped in there and are making little recordings in FlipGrid, which is awesome. I'm glad to see that some of you have jumped in and found it really easy to use. Excellent. I see some selfies coming across the screen, which means that you are figuring out just how easy it is to record yourself and give yourself a quick selfie there. I hope you don't mind that I got a little silly when I did my selfie this afternoon. Trish, I would have to see if it's giving an error. Sometimes one of the first things that you have to do is make sure that you give it permission to access your microphone and camera. So that's one of those pieces. And I would make sure that you refresh. Yes, if you have an iPad, you do want to have that app involved so that you can use the app. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the app and how you get access and download those, but those are free, yes. All right, so I'm going to jump and just take a look at our grid here in a minute. I'm going to pull it up for everyone to see. So I'm now looking at FlipGrid from the educator view, not from the student view. So I'm going to see it just slightly differently than you do. And I'm seeing all of the people who have posted their flips for me as a teacher. Certainly if I was in as a student, and I can do that quickly here. Sorry. I'll open it in an incognito window in a moment. Oops. It didn't keep sharing the same screen I wanted it to share. Hold on, everyone. Too many things to share at once. There we go. So now I can share to you the FlipGrid that it looks like for you as the students. So this is where I'm going to get to see everything that you guys have posted, all of your faces, and I could actually go ahead in.
Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing tonight?
And check out some of those postings, some of the things that you guys said to me. You said hi. I also want to point out, I put in a test one for you. Instead of your video, you could actually use a whiteboard and have the students complete work in the hallway. Hopefully your dog won't be in the background barking. So not only could you, of course, post your video, you could use a whiteboard mode to be posting and showing things that you're doing, but it's a quick way for you to get some feedback from students. I had this one set at a 90-second length of video. You can go as high as 10 minutes of video, but certainly you probably don't want your kids talking into that FlipGrid for 10 minutes most of the time. You might want much shorter time frames. But that's a quick look at how this feels for the student perspective and how easy it is to get started. Like I said, I took off a few restrictions that you might want to have turned on for students, like making sure they're accessing through either their Gmail accounts or through a special code so that we can make this work easily in our session tonight. However, that's really how easy it is to use. So I want to quick ask and take a pause there and stop and see if there are any questions about using FlipGrid. I did see a couple come in. Specifically about, that you're on an iPad and wanted to know, do you need the app for this? And if you want to make recordings, yes, you're going to need that app. And let me see if there's some more questions as they're coming in. So time limit to the videos you record. The teacher sets up the time limit. Like I said, I set this one at 90 seconds. You can go all the way up to as high as 10 minutes. When you are creating the video as the student, when you are going through your process, at any point before you save it, you could cancel it to redo it. Once it's in, the only person that can cancel it is your teacher. Can the students view each other's? Yes, they can. Will this work well with Google Classroom? Oh, yes, it will. Wait till I show you how easy it integrates to Google Classroom. And can you see which students view which videos? Well, I'm going to show you guys the teacher mode so you can see that. I'm seeing some really good questions. See if there's anything else. All right, where is the whiteboard? So let me go in one more time as a student for you, just so that I could highlight a couple of those pieces for you that you had questions about. So when I'm creating a new video as a, sorry about that, I used the wrong link. Sorry, I need to make sure I use the link that lets me in freely. When I go in as a student and I'm ready to make my recording, remember here, one of the first things that you're probably going to need to do is allow it to use your microphone and camera so that it can see you. At the bottom of the screen here where I am seeing myself, you're going to see that there's a little whiteboard and it's called Board. If I click on that, I'm going to be able to turn my screen into a whiteboard, and now I can draw on my whiteboard as I might need to. I can add text to the whiteboard. I might want to do that. I can add stickers and things like that to my whiteboard. So I don't necessarily need to be recording my face. I can record the whiteboard. I hit record here. And now I can speak about whatever I'm doing. I can continue drawing, do that part, and then finish my video. Now, like I said, at any point I can click this redo and it'll let me redo what I've started with. When I move forward to the next. And now I can speak about whatever I'm doing. I can continue drawing. Notice here I have the option to add more to my video if I want to. I'm not going to do that right now. Then I get to take my selfie and finish with the video itself. So again, that whiteboard feature is there. You might need to show students. They might not see it right away. But it's a great way if you're a math teacher to get kids to show what they're doing in a math problem or show an example of something. You could even have them kind of walk through and talk through a specific problem or process if you needed them to. So that's one way to do that. Any other questions about the student view of FlipGrid? Did want to point out here, I am going to leave this link available to you when I post the recording, that there are some minimum requirements. You could use FlipGrid with pretty much any of our modern internet browsers, Edge, Chrome, Firefox, Safari, etc. It shows you what version you need to use to do that, as well as having the iPad and Android apps available for students. So again, all free apps that are very easy to download. They don't take up a lot of space on your device either. All right, so with those couple of things under our belts, I wanted to move next to how do we get this set up as a teacher? Well, the first thing that you're going to need to do is you are going to need to create your FlipGrid account. We can do that at our FlipGrid site. It will make you do that with either a Google or Microsoft account. Okay, so if you are, for example, a Carbon Lee High Intermediate Unit teacher, you have a Google account. We set them all up for everyone. You may not use them for your professional work, but you can certainly do that, and you're going to use that Google account. We know a number of school districts also give their teachers Microsoft 365 accounts. That would be a perfect way to do this. I'm going to talk about these steps, and I'm going to get in and show them as well. Once you've signed up, it's as easy as verifying your email address so that they know that you're a real person. And then you could start adding new grids. And I'll show you how to walk through making a grid, naming it, picking the grid type that will make sense for your students, and giving a code for your grid. In each grid, you can have as many topics as you need. And those topics could be as simple as that hello that we did, or you can put in prompts, videos, all kinds of things that would elicit that response from students and teachers. Then your goal is to share it with students. You can share it via Google Classroom. You could share a link. You can give a QR code. Lots of ways to share your grid to students. And then we'll take a look at some of the other setup options that you can include, things like closed captioning, moderating, etc. So I'm going to jump in to FlipGrid here. Sorry. I'm going to sign out of my account so that you can see where the startup is. When I go to FlipGrid.com, it's going to take me to that initial page that we see all the information about FlipGrid. If you don't have an account yet, you would use the educator sign up. If you do have an account, you can of course go right to educator login. Like I said, the sign up part of this tells you, first of all, students don't need accounts. It's not required for students to have accounts. There are different ways you can set up your classroom in order to make sure that students can get in, but you will need to either sign up with Google or sign up with Microsoft. As a person who uses Google and Google Chrome all the time, when I hit that button, it takes me right into my FlipGrid account, but that's as easy as the setup is. Once you set up the account and you put in your verify your information, it will send you an email to verify that you are a real human being so that you can get started. I am now going to go back and just log myself into FlipGrid. I use my Google login. It'll bring me into my FlipGrid account. All right, so once I'm in my FlipGrid account, what you can do is you can set up brand new grids. Now, I will tell you, in your FlipGrid account, when you come in, it takes you right to the page where all your grids are. If you don't have any, it'll start with no grids. You will see at the top right corner, that's where your profile is. If you need to make any changes to your profile, you can do that here. That's where your information is. You can put some bio info in, Twitter info, things like that if you choose. Really minimal is just having your name and where you work. You will see you can go to a My Activity page that shows you a dashboard of all the activity that's going on in your account. You can go to mixtapes where you can pick different videos and create a little tape of those videos. So maybe you have 3 or 4 different classes and you want to pick the best responses from all the classes. You can create a mixtape out of all of those. So For those of us that grew up in the 80s and 90s and made mixtapes by listening to the radio, well, now you can make mixtapes by picking the best videos that you saw from your students. You could have grid pals and connect to others. And there's what's called a disco library, where you will have all kinds of prompts that other people are suggesting. So you can borrow someone else's prompt to use in your class. So a lot of really cool things. I'm going to jump into the My Grids and show you how to set up a grid. One of the questions that came across before I got into this was, would the teacher set up individual classrooms so that students in one class are only interacting with their classmates? Well, that's entirely up to you. You can make one grid that all of your classes contribute to. That would put a lot of videos on one grid if you're like a secondary teacher and you'll see 150 kids. You can create grids by the period that you teach. You can create grids where you mix and match students if you want, where you send some to some students. What I would suggest is if you're using Google Classroom, you're going to want to share a different grid to each classroom. So that would be a consideration for you as well. We'll talk a little bit more about the mixtape, but yes, you can share that mixtape with your students. So that would be a really great way to show them the best work. All right, so I'm gonna add a new grid here. I'll show you a couple of the options that you need to think about in adding your grid. So first thing is you need to name that grid. So you're gonna probably name it by your class that you teach. I was a former Spanish teacher, so I will say Spanish 2, period. For some reason, I always had Spanish 2 during period 8. And I like to put my name in my grids. So Spanish 2, period 8, Mr. Leck is the name of my grid. 3 types of grids that you can choose from. For student classes, you're going to choose one of these top 2. The first one, school email, means that the students would then access it through their Gmail or Google accounts at school, or if you're a Microsoft school, they can access through their Microsoft accounts. So a lot of times secondary schools where they're using Google Classroom and all those different Google tools, they'll use this school email as their option. If you are in a school where that is not the case and your students don't have those emails set up or those Google accounts set up, you might choose student ID. And in student ID, what you would do is you would put in your list of students and give each student a code. Often that could be the last few digits of a lunch number, some sort of code that would be unique to that student. So when they go to enter your class, they have to put their special PIN or code in. Okay, so 2 different types of setups that you might use. One, if your students do have access to a Gmail or Google account, Microsoft account. One, if they do not. And then you'll see at the bottom, it gives you an automatic flip code. That is a link that you could share for students to get into your FlipGrid. Of course, they need to have either their PIN or be logging in from their school email to get to it. I will let you know that you can actually alter this. So I might want to say, if this is my Spanish 2 period 8 class, I might call it LEC SP2 P8 for period 8. And as long as it's available, I could use that as my code. When I use school email here, that you just have to put in that ending part of that school email that you use. So for me, where I work, it's @cliu.org. If I was working at another school, and let's say I was working at Allentown, I might choose @allentownsd.org, etc. No, if you pick school email, a code doesn't get emailed to them, but they're going to need to be logged into their Google account to access. And that's why we put that ending in. Okay, I'm going to go back 1 second. I'll show the ID way as well. So if I use the student ID, you can use a spreadsheet file to upload, and the spreadsheet file has to have 3 columns: first name, last name, and the code or ID that you would give them. So I'll just put in a couple of students so that you can see. I'll put 1 student in, that should be enough. You could also give that student an individual QR code that they can use to log in. If they have a camera on their computer and they can print out that QR code, they can show it right in front of their camera, and that would help get them into their grid. Okay, don't worry, I can add more students. I know I only added 1, but I can add more students right there. Now, This is an important place to stop and pause, because now my grid is ready. I have this link. So I can send this link to my students. Again, if I'm using, for example, Schoology with my students, I can put this in Schoology. As long as they're logged into their Google account or they know their pins, they can get in that way. If I'm using Google Classroom, I can click on Google Classroom right here. It'll take me into my classrooms, and I can share it to that class. I can create an assignment out of it. I can just put it as a question, make it an announcement, and click go. Okay. So super easy to add this to Google Classroom if you're a Google Classroom user. We love those tools that make our lives easier. Okay, so that's one easy way, but like I said, you can copy and paste this link. If you're sharing it in another way, you can share it in that way. Again, in the case that our kids need pins, they do need to know their pins, so you'd have to send that along as well. All right, so now I'm going to go to my grid. All grids are set up with that say hello as a first topic, but you can add additional topics as you might need, or you can even delete that first topic if you don't love it. I'm going to go through a couple of other resources before I add a topic. The first I want to point out is when I have a grid set up, I can go in and edit that grid if I need to. I can change the title of it. I can add more students if I have to add more students. And then there's some other features that I can take a look at. I can get notifications about this grid on a daily basis, weekly, every time a new video is posted. So that'll send me as the teacher an email when new videos are submitted. You can let students receive emails when new topics are created. So you can turn this on if students have access to their email, and anytime you add a new topic, they'll get an email that says, there's a new topic on the FlipGrid. Download and share. This gives you the option to let students download their own videos if they want to, or share their videos. A lot of teachers like to turn this one off. They want to keep that nice and private as possible. You can turn on closed captioning. It will auto close caption. So if someone is mumbling or there's a lot of background noise, it might not catch it well. But it is a nice tool and provides some good options around accessibility as well. This is a place where you can make your grid active or hidden. If you are done using a grid and you don't want students to see it anymore, you can make it hidden and they will no longer see it. And then there's a place where you can set your language for captions. If you have students, if I was in a Spanish class, I might want all of my captions to be in Spanish because the students are supposed to be responding in Spanish, and it'll capture them that way. No, it will not translate. It will capture them in that language and spell them correctly and put that language in. That's how it's going to recognize the language that it's putting in. You can put a nice fun image up. They give you a lot of choices here. You can pick a new one. You can upload your own images, and then I'm going to update my grid. So those are some of the resources and tools that are part of the creation of the grid itself. Remember, grid is my classroom. Now the topics. This is what we talk about. And the first thing I would do with the topic is click that pink button to add a new topic. We need to give it a title. I'm going to make mine La Ropa, which is about clothes. Remember here I told you that you could set the recording time for students. So as little as 15 seconds, as much as 10 minutes. I'm going to leave it at that minute and 30 seconds. And then I could put a prompt in. So as a Spanish teacher, I'm going to ask them to show us a fun outfit and describe it in Spanish. Talk about at least 3 articles of clothing in your video. So that's going to be the prompt that I'm going to ask them to respond to. Notice here that you could add some optional focus for the students. Maybe you want to put a YouTube video in that's going to inspire them or have some information that you want to ask them about. You can pull something in from Newsela if you've used that tool before. Maybe it's an article or a resource. A lot of really great tools that you could incorporate into your FlipGrid to help set up that prompt. I want to show you the additional options here. You can give students a tip, like a little hint to answer their topics. You can attach things to your topic. Maybe it's a link to go somewhere else. This is a key, video moderation. So this is one of your additional options, remember. So if you don't want your students' videos to be automatically posted, if you want to check them out first before everybody else sees them, turn this on. That will mean that you review it, and once you've reviewed it, you could release it for other students to review. The next one is student-to-student replies. That's saying, can students actually reply to each other? That they would be able to click on a button and reply to each other's comments. Again, that's up to you to turn off. The default is that it's turned on. And at any point, you could freeze a topic, which means nobody can add anything new to that topic, or you can hide it, which means students will no longer see it. You will, but students will not. And if you don't want to have to go in and freeze or hide something, you can put in a date as to when it'll be frozen. Maybe the deadline to submit their answer is a certain date. Make that the freeze date at 12:01. I'm sorry, at 11:59 on that date, students will no longer be, after 11:59, they will no longer be able to add topics. Notice there's some more options about the videos. Do they need to add a title? Are they going to see how many people have viewed it? Can they add sticky notes while they're recording? Can they trim and rearrange their videos? Can they add attachments? Can they like each other's videos? Do we want the selfie at all? We can turn the selfie off and go for videos only. Lots of different options there. And then for you as the teacher, what kind of feedback do you want to give? Do you want to give very basic feedback? They give you a short rubric. It's out of 5 points for ideas and performance. Or you can make something more custom where you create a rubric with different criteria on it. So again, very straightforward, but a lot of options to consider for your topic. So again, keep in mind, a grid is your classroom. A topic is the actual discussion, and then the students will post their videos or videos with selfies. Okay, a mixtape, remember, is a compilation of, let's say you have 3 or 4 different grids and you want to pick the best videos from the best topics. You can make a mixtape out of those. All right, so I'm going to create my topic now. My topic is ready. I'm all set. If I just want to submit, if I just want to share this topic out to my class, I can do that right here from Google Classroom as well. So I can always share directly to Google Classroom. So the topic is ready, and now it's just waiting for responses. Remember that just like with our grid, if I needed to edit my topic, I do have an edit button there that I can edit it. I'll point out as well that if I need to, I have some other actions here. I can add guests to a topic. If it's an awesome topic and I want to share it with others, I can add it to the Disco library. I can hide it, I can move it, I can duplicate it. So I want to use the same topic again. Maybe I do a pre-test and a post-test, something like that. Or of course I can delete my topic. Any questions about creating a grid or creating topics as we get started with FlipGrid? So I see the question, will students be able to view a rubric prior to creating the topic? So depending on the way that you set up your topic, if you do a custom rubric, I definitely suggest you share that rubric in another format as well. It doesn't let them really see the descriptions around the criteria. Just like you saw in that basic, it had performance and ideas. It doesn't put a lot of description behind it, so I think it would be a really good idea for you to put that in. Can you place a topic in multiple grids without having to create it twice? So that would be a great reason to use the Disco library. If you have a topic and you put it in a Disco library, you can push it into as many other grids as you want. So that would be one way to do that. Why would you want to hide it? You might want to hide the topic if you are done with it. You don't want students to enter it anymore. Maybe it was a pre-test, post-test, and you want to hide the pre-test so they can't go back to see their old recordings. Number of reasons. If you're using this a lot and your grid is starting to fill up with lots of topics, you might want to hide some of the old ones. So there's a few reasons there. And can we find FlipGrid in the App Store on a MacBook Pro? I've never looked for it there because when I'm on a typical laptop, I always go from the browser version. So the Disco library, once you have an account, you can see the Disco library. I was going to talk about that next, but this is a great place to find topics that are created by the FlipGrid community, meaning other FlipGrid users. And this is where you can add topics as well. But if there is a topic in here that you want to use, let's say that you are a computer science teacher and you teach one of the code.org courses. Well, here are a bunch of topics that were created by code.org. So let's say I wanted my students to answer this question, what makes a computer a computer? They'd have to watch the video, read the prompt, and I'm going to just add it right to my class. So I didn't create this one. I just borrowed it from code.org. They have a great one here. It has a nice video that goes with it. I'm going to put my settings on it that I want on it. And then I am going to, of course, update the topic. And it's in that grid. It's now in my CLIU Ready PD grid. So that's how that Disco library works. Lets us borrow from others. And like I said, it's not just other teachers, sometimes it's content producers like code.org, like Wonderopolis. So there's some great resources in here to use. The Met has some resources in here as well. You can kind of see that vocabulary. If you've ever used those great vocabulary, those fun vocabulary videos, some good topics there as well. And you can always just do the search and search for topics that others have used. So a lot of great resources there around our topics. Any other questions for me about the topics or the grids themselves? See if there's any more that came in. Do the students have to use the QR code each time? It depends on how you have that class set up. If you set it up that they're going in with their Google accounts, they do not. If they know their PINs, they do not need to use that QR code. Once you've created the grid, in the grid settings, once you edit the grid, you can add students there. And if students are already in there and you need to delete them or edit them, you can do that there. If I was a K-2 teacher, I would probably only create one grid. There's no reason to have students going all over the place. I would use one grid and just segment my topics and then hide topics when students are done with them so they don't get lost or confused. All right, want to move forward a little bit. Just some ideas for use, and I'm sure that there are ideas spinning in your head already. But this could be a great tool for a quick class check-in, especially if students maybe have not used it before. The first thing you're going to want to do is just give them the opportunity to say hello, get reacquainted with their class. As we're now moving into this time frame where they're not going to be together in the same room. This would be a great place for them to just do a quick check-in. What's the most fun thing you've done while you've been quarantined at home, or things like that, or what's been the most exciting positive thing that we can see out of this. Oops, somebody just noted that they lost sound. Has anybody else lost sound? Can you hear me? All right. Looks like others can still hear me. All right, good. Sorry about that. Another great thing that you can do is you can do a show and explain. And of course you could use that whiteboard tool, but another tool that I would say would be a great tool to use is have the kids get a blank piece of paper, write on that piece of paper and show it to their screen. I mean, I have a little catalog here. I could say, you know what, here's that school specialty catalog and this is what we're talking about. So great, easy show and explain something. You can ask them opinion statements. This would be a great place for a mini debate, a short debate, make them be very succinct about their answers. You only have a minute and a half to make your best point and cite some evidence in it. Absolutely great way to do some of that. A quick project presentation, all the way up to 10 minutes they can present for. So if you're looking for that presentation, and again, they have a camera, they can show things into the camera to talk about, to show you. This would be a great way to use a read aloud or to have students practice their reading out loud and submit it to you for our younger students. You know, if they have certain text or even if they're using their text online. You know, my son has Wonders as a 7-year-old, so they're doing a little bit of their reading online right now. This would be a great way for him to read out loud to his teacher. Great tool for fluency and phonics. Again, just have them practice with their sounds and their words for our K1-2 teachers. They can do multiple videos if you want for any question that you set up for them. So absolutely, they can add multiple videos. And of course, if you need more ideas, run to that FlipGrid Disco library. Take a look at what's out there. There's so many good ideas. And then the FlipGrid community themselves, wait till you see this. This resource is all about FlipGrid integration. So basically, how can I put this into a classroom? Well, if I am teaching math in the grades 9 through 12 range, here's some ideas to help me out. So of course it goes through the FlipGrid basics, but then it gives you some nice tips and ideas. It gives you links directly to some other topics that people have used, pre-algebra, algebra, geometry, etc. So again, there are a ton of integration ideas all the way across everything from kindergarten language arts through high school math. So lots of really neat ideas available. And don't worry, you'll be able to access all these links when I share the presentation. So yes, they can create a presentation and share it on their phone. So if they have the app on their phone, they would put it in selfie mode, basically. They can set it up, you know, prop it up a little bit, and they could, just like they would show to their computer screen, like I would do with my catalog here, they could show that to their phone screen. You get back to that. So integration here, it's a link that I put in. When I am in my, sorry, I'm going through a lot of links really quickly, apologize. When I am in my integrator account here, or when I am in my logged in account, you'll see that I can get to sorry, that's not the right type of integration. I can go to my help center to get some resources for educators, and you'll see that there's resources here that'll take me to those integrations. But again, you'll get that direct link right from my presentation under more ideas. So we'll make sure that that's there. If students are on a regular computer or Chromebook, they can just use the website. And again, they don't have to log in. They just need their code, or they need to have a Google account. And if they are on a tablet or a phone or any of those things, they do want to have the app, or else they won't be able to record. That's their recording, and it is a free app. All right, a couple other things that I want to show you before we're done, and I know we're getting close to the end here. Reviewing, responding, feedback. So all the students are putting all these videos out there. What are you going to do as the teacher next? So this is your opportunity to give them feedback, share links with them. You can even grade them there if you need to. You can close topics. So there's a lot of great pieces that you could use from the educator account. So I'm going to jump back over to my educator account and go to my grids. I'm going to pick one of the grids where I do have something there. I can actually use the grid that we were just in because you guys have all participated. So when I go to a grid as a teacher where people have participated, notice that I see it in a different view. You saw all of the people's selfies. Well, I'm gonna see my list view of my class, okay? So this is where I can come in. I can see someone. And now I can speak about whatever I'm doing. I can continue. I can see someone's video. I can watch it. I can leave it a vibe. I can give it a star. I can say it's a spark video, meaning it has some really good ideas. I can add it to a mixtape if I want to. I can give video feedback. So meaning I can record a video that would only be available to this person. It wouldn't be available to the whole class. If I wanted the whole class to see my feedback, I can just reply to it and the whole class would see that. Here's my grading rubric. See how I said it's very, very plain? There's not a lot of information with my rubric. So this is just a quick 5-point on ideas and performance. I can add text feedback. Now, a couple things here. If your students are able to access email, I can email my feedback right here and it goes to an email account. If not, I'm going to need to get a feedback link so I can give them that feedback. Maybe I push it to them through Google Classroom. Maybe I push it to them through another method. Whatever that method is to send them that feedback, we want to make sure that they can get it. And that's how I would get the link to their feedback. And again, whoever I give that link to, maybe I send it to a parent, maybe I send it to the students, that's how they get the feedback on that. Again, the only place this feedback would be public to others is if you leave a vibe. Again, a vibe would be saying you like it, it's a spark video, adding it to a mixtape, or if you reply to the video, meaning you are putting a video that then everybody else will be able to see as a reply to the video. Any of these other feedback pieces would not necessarily be seen by anyone else but the student themselves. Want to point out here that you can edit on a video. So let's say somebody didn't title it or titled it incorrectly. You could fix the title if you need to. And if this is an awesome video that you would want to share with a lot of people, you could actually share it out and get a link directly to this video to share out. So maybe you want to just share this one. You don't want to make a mixtape. You just want to share it out to other classes. So you could share it to Google Classroom and say, check out this. This has been a stellar response and what I would expect from all of you. So that would be a great one. So can email feedback be set up with the parent email? So I would suggest probably not, but you could copy the link and send it to the parent in that way. Simply because the email would only be associated with the account that the student is using, and that would typically be the student's Gmail account or Google account. And can students see the feedback through FlipGrid or only by supplying them with the link? Only by supplying them with the link, especially if you're doing that kind of pin access, you would have to still share the link to them. And the question before sharing, do you ask the student who made the video? So again, you'll see in your account, when you pull that up before sharing, you'll see who created the video. And now I can speak again, because I can see it from my list. So I would know who shared it. Now, of course, you want to be careful. You don't want to share it necessarily outside of your school walls, unless you have permission to share student pictures, things like that outside of school walls. Okay. If at any point you needed to, there was a video there that you're like, you know what, this one wasn't something that we should keep. We need to get rid of it. There's, for whatever reason, we can delete any responses that are there. So again, I can do that in mass up at the top here and select a bunch and delete them. Or I can just do it individually and select and delete here as well. Okay. So that's there for you. Now, these responses are all active, meaning they can all accept responses and things like that. I can make them hidden for whatever reason. Maybe there's some that are off topic or off task, and I want everyone to just focus on the ones that are on task to review. I can hide the ones that were off task. So definitely the question that you asked, do you need student permission to share their video with students in other classes? I would double check with your school on their policies and procedures. Typically, that's not necessarily something you have to be as concerned about, as long as it's within the school building, or in this case, within the school classrooms that you are overseeing, and it's kept private within those classrooms. It would be kind of like if you did a poster project and you posted those posters in your classroom and the students had their pictures on the posters. Again, it's contained within that classroom setting, but again, check with your school district on their policies around that. I wouldn't say yes or no definitely for every school district, because they might feel slightly differently. Any other questions about some of those tools or resources? I gave you pretty much the overview, but there's still a little bit more to explore. So I wanted to point out, I left these couple of links that'll be available to you after our session. These are the FlipGrid Educator Resources and Remote Learning Resources. So these are FlipGrid resources, everything from getting started to all the topics that I covered and more. You want a co-teacher in your class? Go for it. We call them co-pilots in FlipGrid. So you can have that. How do I use that Disco library? That's going to be there. Using student IDs, using the FlipGrid apps. All of these tools are in here. All of the instructions are in here for you. They also have created a special set of resources just because everyone's going through this remote learning right now. So they have a nice resource for you there, how to get started as an educator, how families can get started really quickly, and some quick tips to get you started, as well as some places where you can go to specific FlipGrid webinars and get some additional resources as well. So a lot of great stuff here in FlipGrid that I hope you're going to use in the next weeks that you are with your students. So, any other questions for me or ideas or suggestions? I hope that I have inspired you and given you some really good ideas to get you started, and that you're already starting to brim with some new ideas on how this might really be a great tool to get your students engaged. Because one of the toughest things that we will encounter with our students that are no longer directly in front of us is getting them motivated, getting them engaged, and really getting them into the work. So if we can find tools or resources that pull them in and get them going and help them connect, I think we're going to be in really good shape. All right. So I think, and I hope, let's see if we checked our boxes here. We've familiarized with FlipGrid tool. You got a chance to experience it yourself. I tried to go through step by step on setting up your grid, which is like your classroom, a topic, which is your discussion, and then that management perspective on what to do with it when it's done. And I showed you some great resources to help you as you start using FlipGrid. I think it would be a great idea to have students play some drums on the FlipGrid and turn it on and let them try it out, see how that works for them. I think it would be awesome. That music teacher that's looking to hear student voice, maybe this is that perfect way. Again, we need to look outside the box and think of some ways that we could take this on. So before I get to my exit ticket, and I know we're right at the end of time, I just want to remind you, while this is all going on, there are things that we can control and things that we can't. And I encourage you to really keep the focus on the things that you can control and just try to let go of those things that you cannot. And as we take on this new teaching role, as we take on some new methods and try some new things, just remember, focus on what you can control, be graceful, be kind, be patient, not only with your students, but be patient with yourself as you learn all of this stuff. So I will finish it up with, if you have any questions, I'm here for you. I do want to make sure that you have access to our exit ticket for the session. Post that in the chat for you. It's also on the screen. Post it a few times so that you have it. Remember to fill out that exit ticket completely for your Act 48 and with your school district, because I will be reporting back to school districts so that they know who's attending these sessions. Certainly, we know in some cases it's voluntary, other cases they're asking you to get into these sessions. So I will make sure that that gets reported back. I know a lot of people have been asking questions about that. And again, just a reminder, your exit ticket is in the chat box. I am going to stop sharing my screen, so it might be easier for you to get to the chat box. And I'm going to also stop my recording now.